Part 108. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1073. Let's go down. Zhang Zizai couldn't wait to see the effect of this ancestral dragon spring. Brother Zizai, the god King Guanghe just said that you should put your belongings on it, Long Yan reminded. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Zhang Zizai did not forget this. He put almost everything in the space jade pendant, and had nothing on him except clothes. The same was true for Long Yan. The two of them packed up and stood under the small pool. I'll come first. Zhang Zizai didn't jump in a hurry, but followed the wall of the small pool. With a diameter of 3 feet, this can be considered a well at most. Long Yan was following him from above. Zhang Zizai wanted to look up, but that would mean he would have to look up at her skirt since he was little. So he held back and went straight down. He predicted that the well would be very deep and there would be no trace of it. Thinking that it was really deep, I didn't reach the bottom until I dived for a quarter of an hour. Looking down, you can see the Zilong spring, which is only about 1 foot deep. This is the so-called liquid divine energy. In fact, before Zhang Zizai came down, when the liquid on his head dripped on his forehead, he had already felt the huge effect of this ancestral dragon spring. This is simply not comparable to the dragon spring of light. Come down. After making sure that no drops of liquid would splash out and cause waste, Zhang Zizai jumped down without much hesitation and sank to the bottom. This place was too narrow. In the past 2 months, he could barely do anything but standing here with Long Yan. However, both of them are focusing on their cultivation, so there should be no embarrassment. After coming in, Zhang Zizai could feel the effect of the Zilong spring. The spring water penetrated directly into the body from the hair pores. He had not yet used the dragon whale swallowing sea technique, and he felt like being swallowed up by the divine energy. Here 2 months of cultivation is equivalent to more than a year outside, or even higher. Long Yan also fell down and stood in front of him, facing him. To be honest, this Zilong spring was too transparent, extremely clear. Although the two of them were in the water, everything was still clear. Her long hair spreading out in the water, the fair face and skin appear smoother and whiter in the water. Kanja's eyes are infinitely attractive. The clothes attached to the body better set off the exquisite figure, although it is not as explosive as the 9 Immortals. The sense of sex directly makes people have a fanatical sense of animality, but it also has a kind of attraction. Maybe it is the attraction between 2 top bloodlines. The more Zhang Zizai looks at her, the more beautiful she feels. Sometimes it is inevitable that there will be some thoughts of ravaging her. Of course, I can only think about it. Let's start practicing, shall we? Seeing Zhang Zizai's fiery gaze, she might have expected that there would be some ambiguity between a man and a widow, but she didn't expect that this was just a well, so she had to almost stay close to Zhang Zizai. For a person with a huge back and waist, it is 3 feet in diameter and cannot be stretched out. Okay, it's not good to have bad thoughts about such a pure girl, Zhang Zizai mentally condemned herself. Yeah, she nodded slightly. Suddenly, she became a little panicked. What's going on? What? Zhang Zizai lowered his head. He thought she was in some trouble, so he quickly reacted to protect her and naturally opened his arms. But at this time, she let out a cry and became even more panicked. Zhang Zizai lowered his head and saw that he was in trouble now. He saw that his clothes were actually dissolving in the ancestral dragon spring. The speed was very fast. At this time, most of them had disappeared. Not only herself, but also her, and she dissipated very quickly, almost in a breath. She was almost naked, crowded with herself in such a narrow space. No matter how much she tried to cover it up, she couldn't stop Zhang Zizai's gaze. Now his mind almost exploded because the clothes on his body were gone. Only then did he remember why God King Guanghe asked them not to bring anything with them. It was because the ancestral dragon spring could resolve everything except their bodies. At this time, the two of them were completely honest with each other. He didn't expect that Xuanhuan would still be like this. Maybe others knew that they were husband and wife and were about to get married, so it was okay, but this was not the case. "Close your eyes," she said in a panic. Even in this situation, Zhang Zizai was still staring, and she also saw a lot in her panic. After all, Zhang Zizai didn't cover up. "Ah! Don't move, I'll go out." He was also very embarrassed, so he could only rush out first. Although he didn't know what to do, if it didn't work, he could just give her the Zalonkan. After all, he was here. Isn't it uncomfortable to stay in a well for 2 months with no view at all and not being able to do anything? Besides, she's so thin-skinned, she definitely can't stand it. Zhang Zizai thought that he was still a very gentleman. But he never expected that just when he wanted to rush out, there was a layer of confinement on the surface of the Zalong spring. He wanted to go up, but was suppressed directly and couldn't get out. Looking up, the dragon head above happened to be above the well. Its eyes were looking down. Zhang Zizai felt like he was being stared at. The pressure that kept him away came from this statue. He was pushed down and bumped into Long Yan. Needless to say, the fragrant taste. After all, he had been away from the 9 Immortals for so long that he almost forgot what it felt like. In Zalonkan, accompanied by her panicked voice and Zhang Zizai's embarrassed voice, Zhang Zizai tossed around for a long time, and Zhang Zizai completely understood that he could not go out. "Close your eyes," she said seriously. "Okay, okay. Don't move. Got it? Don't go out, you can't go out." "I know." She had her back to him, but in fact, as long as Zhang Zizai opened his eyes, the curve of her back must be very moving, especially below the waist. "From now on, until we go out, you can't open your eyes." Her voice was a little trembling. It was as weak as a mosquito. "I know, Yanner, you have to believe in my character. If I say I won't open my eyes, I will definitely not open my eyes. Don't worry, I am a rare gentleman," Zhang Zizai said seriously. After all, they had seen almost everything in the front. She didn't speak anymore, but in this water, they could hear the hearts of the two people beating. Zhang Zizai didn't know what she was like, anyway, he had thought of all the scenes. "I've started practicing. I'll use up this Zalong spring soon, and I should be able to get out," she said weakly. "Okay," Zhang Zizai nodded. To be honest, he would rather not have so many benefits, because this kind of temptation is in front of him, but he can't move, and he has to focus on practicing. It's a test comparable to Tianyi's soul tribulation. 2 months, can you hold on? This girl is still facing away from him, doesn't she know that the back is more attractive? Please bookmark this site to read the latest novels. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1074. This is destined to be an exciting journey of cultivation. Zhang Zizai knew that she still rejected this kind of thing, so out of respect, he still kept strict control over himself. It was not easy for her to follow him here, and now she has no roots. Of course, she can't mess with things that she hates and hates. Forget about taking advantage of his eyes, he won't think too much about other aspects. She actually wanted to keep her distance. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. If you want to blame it, you can only blame Zalonkan for being too cheating. This kind of thing, apart from being sexy at the beginning, is torture the rest of the time and distracts from practice. Fortunately, if he thinks too much, he can still practice the Taigzi universe soul refining technique and let the heaven and earth millstones grind his Tianyi soul, and then he wakes up without any distracting thoughts. He didn't know what Yanner would think. After all, he was not a woman. He didn't know what she would think in this situation. But he was probably quite scared, he could feel it, and because of this, he needed to be a gentleman even more. If he said he wouldn't open his eyes, he would never open his eyes. Ever since, a dreamlike cultivation journey began. He focused on the absorption of the ancestral dragon spring, because the foundation in the origin dragon cave was very solid, and coming to the ancestral dragon spring at this time would have the greatest effect. He slowly performed the dragon whale swallowing sea technique, following the rhythm, and cycled gradually. Soon after, it began to move forward steadily, condensing stronger divine sources at a speed that was more than 10 times faster than the outside world. He paid a little attention to Long Yan's side. Sometime after he started, she had also started practicing, and she should be undistracted. Ancient gods also had divine desires. Zhang Zizai once thought that gods no longer had 7 emotions and 6 desires, but he did not expect that they would only become stronger. Even the sense of flesh and blood will only become more vigorous and sensitive. After that, he set strict demands on himself and never relaxed at all. In fact, if it was Shen Xiao or Suyuexi, he might have defeated the other party, but facing Yan'er, he still didn't dare to think too much. When the focus is entirely on cultivation, the progress is indeed faster. He should be able to focus more than Long Yan. It is obvious that he has swallowed more Zilonkan than her, even a lot more. As time passed, his realm improved rapidly. Under the nourishment of Zilonkan, the source of destruction grew smoothly, level by level. In just 1 month, he had already reached the 8th level of the ancient god realm, directly breaking through to the 9th level of the ancient god realm. This is already the perfection of the realm of the ancient god. Up to this moment, his divine source of destruction has grown to a very high level. With its destructive power to destroy the divine source, in fact, the power of the divine source at this time is similar to that of some divine kings. After all, the divine monarch has not made a qualitative improvement in the divine source, and it is only an increase in degree compared to the ancient gods. At the 9th level of the ancient god realm, with the power of destroying the divine source, it should be able to suppress the ordinary 2nd level of the divine king realm, not to mention other things. The current divine source power should be similar to Bai Mu. When I defeated Bai Mu, I mainly relied on the power of the totem. In terms of divine power, I was definitely not as good as him at the time. But now it should be even. After all, Bai Mu is a divine king with a divine king level totem. It's only been a month. However, Zhang Zizai knew that it would be difficult for him to become a divine king in the next month, because becoming a divine king is not only the growth of divine source, but also the fusion and collision between the totem and the divine source, giving birth to the totem divine form. That is not something Zilonkan can solve. And although only 1 month has passed, he has already consumed more than a quarter of Zilonkan. He will definitely share it equally with Yan'er, so he estimates that he will only be able to absorb the total amount in about half a month. When he counted 1/2, he stopped first. The 9th level of the ancient god realm is indeed majestic. His growth in the ancient god realm is too fast. This is an incredible speed. Even faster than his cultivation in the mortal realm. This is basically due to the fact that after he came to the dragon sacrifice god realm, he received a lot of blessings, especially the blessings of the origin dragon cave and the ancestral dragon spring. In the past half month or so, he has basically absorbed nearly half of the entire Zilong spring. I should be the ultimate divine power in the ancient god realm now. If I want to reach the realm of the divine king and achieve the totem godlike appearance, the ancestral dragon spring is no longer the key. Then I need to find the path to the divine king by myself. The ancestral dragon spring can no longer help me. The limitation of the divine source in the ancient god realm is here. Only by breaking through to the divine king realm can the divine source continue to grow. At this time, there was not much left of the Zilong spring. At this time, the remaining Zilong spring was no longer enough to cover Zhang Zizai's head. When his head emerged from the water, he tried it and found that I can already leave here. Finally we can go. Zhang Zizai burst into tears. The ancestral dragon spring was indeed fragrant, but he had to be strict with himself. It would not be so beautiful when he couldn't open his eyes for a month and a half. You can only act with your own will, but you can't be a bully. I've already finished it here, I'll go up first, Zhang Zizai said. He knew that Long Yan's gains were also very great. She entered the 7th level of the ancient god realm. In a little more than a month, she had already broken through to the 8th level of the ancient god realm. The potential of a god plus the blood of the supreme dragon is indeed quite good. Whether she can continue to improve depends on her luck. After all, the difference between her and Zhang Zizai is that she is not facing the bottleneck of the ancient god realm, but the process from the 8th to the 9th level. For this reason, Zhang Zizai actually absorbed not much Zolonkin in the second half, and there is still a lot left for her. Well, she was still concentrating and hummed slightly. Such a wonderful encounter ended so dryly, as if it was meaningless. Zhang Zizai was still naughty for a while. Before going up, he suddenly stretched out his hand and patted her smooth jade buttocks, and then hurriedly shouted, "Good figure." Then he slipped up. In the ancient well, her panicked voice and the crisp sound echoed for a long time, which made people feel unsatisfied. After coming up, Zhang Zizai quickly put on his clothes to make himself decent, and then said to the people below, "Call me when you are done, and I will throw your things down." Okay, there was still shame and anger in her voice. However, she also knew that after such a long time of being so honest with him, it was not his style if he didn't take advantage of him. Now that this embarrassing journey was finally over, she was relieved. It felt so good to be alone in this ancient well. Otherwise, her legs would have been weak for more than a month. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1075. Zhang Zizai ignored her for the rest of the time. On the one hand, he went outside to consolidate his realm and figure out how to go on the path of the God Lord. On the other hand, he studied the lifelike dragon ancestor statue. This dragon ancestor statue really can't be looked at too much. Looking at it for a few more times, it feels like an ancestor is staring at you, and even said to you, "You are really not a man. I created an opportunity for you. You can hold it for more than a month." It's uncomfortable. This should be the inner demon at work, otherwise how could this ancestor laugh at you? Absolutely impossible. Unknowingly, time has passed, and her delicate voice came from below. She probably also liberated and relaxed a lot. Zhang Zizai threw her things down, and soon, she came up with a neat dress. When she saw Zhang Zizai, the embarrassment of the past 2 months was still lingering, especially when he came at the end. It almost made her doubt whether he had not closed his eyes throughout the whole scene. Reading this, although she wanted to complain, she couldn't say it, but her face turned red. "Are you actually ready, and now you blame me for being worse than an animal?" Zhang Zizai said depressedly. "What a mistake, I should understand what you mean." "You fart," she glared at him. She didn't expect that she was so cute when she said swear words. Of course, Zhang Zizai made a joke to resolve the embarrassment. But at this time, their eyes met and suddenly sparks collided. "Ahem. I knew you had bad intentions towards me," Zhang Zizai coughed and said shamelessly. "Nonsense." She took a deep breath, as if trying to forget these things, and then said, "Brother Zizai, I also reached the 9th level of the ancient god realm at the last moment." "So strong?" Zhang Zizai was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that his realm was caught up by her. Although he gave her some Zolonkin, her progress was also very great. Of course, although they are both at the 9th level, Zhang Zizai is only one step away from the realm of the godly lord, and she still has a long way to go in the 9th level. With Zhang Zizai's current totem, if they want to fight, several of them are not Zhang Zizai's opponents. Seeing that she can make such progress, Zhang Zizai is particularly happy for her. In fact, she is also happy. It has been a long time, and it should be almost time for the wedding of the two. Brother Zizai, this matter is a bit unexpected, but there is no need to have any psychological burden. I am not so fragile now, she thought for a while and said. What do you mean? Are you reminding me that I didn't seize the opportunity in time? Zhang Zizai asked. Don't talk nonsense, she smiled and said, I have decided. After a while, I want to go out and walk by myself. Why? Because it seems that if I am here, and because of this marriage, it may affect your search for the 9 immortal priest. It's just right to go out and relax. Are you sure? Zhang Zizai asked, because he didn't want to restrict her, and he would support her no matter what decision she made. Of course I'm sure. I want to go back and see my sister. I haven't seen her for 2 or 3 years. I miss her a little bit, she said. If she sees your current strength, she will definitely cry and scream with shame. Remember to help me humiliate her then, Zhang Zizai said with a smile. Bullying my sister again, she shook her head and smiled. She is now fully grown, has her own reputation and status, and has people to protect her. If you think about it carefully, Zhang Zizai will respect her no matter what she wants. Maybe she is a little close to Zhang Zizai recently, so she is not very comfortable. This way of interfering with other people's feelings makes her uncomfortable, especially the marriage that cannot be helped. Emotional matters are always the most troublesome, and Zhang Zizai is also a little confused at this time. Anyway, it's best to be safe. She grows up safely, and then finds Juxian by herself, so his heart can be completely settled. If he doesn't see her for a day, his heart is hanging. 2 months have passed, but the God King of Guanghe doesn't seem to come in. When Zhang Zizai was wondering, suddenly the Light Dragon Lord appeared. He appeared beside the two of them out of thin air, first respectfully saluted the statue, and then said to Zhang Zizai, do you know the origin of the statue of the birth of the ancestral dragon spring? Zhang Zizai shook his head. Of course. He said, this is a part of the body of the ancestor of our Light Dragon clan, the Light Dragon ancestor. Although it is a legend, it is true. Others heard it was a legend, but he knew it was the truth. Oh, Zhang Zizai nodded. No wonder the statue was so amazing. It turned out to be a part of the master's body, maybe just a small part. He showed a respectful look in his eyes, and he didn't dare to act rashly here. Light Dragon Lord took a look at their progress and said, it's about the same as I expected. They are all close to the progress of 2 levels, especially Yanner is very competitive. It is indeed much more cost-effective to give this ancestral dragon spring to you than to buy Mu alone. He absorbed all of it by himself, and at most he can improve by 2 levels. Speaking of Bai Mu's affairs, he didn't say much, but just nodded to thank the Light Dragon Lord for the reward. That incident caused such a big stir in the Holy Dragon clan, it is impossible for him not to know about it. You practice the Holy Dragon celestial body of the War God King, then, the Bright Dragon Lord asked Zhang Zizai. Yes, Zhang Zizai nodded. Let's go. I'll take you to the Light Dragon tomb. Since the divine source has been cultivated to the 9th level of the ancient god realm, let's see if you have the willpower to cultivate the divine body to the 9th level of the Holy Dragon celestial body, the Light Dragon Lord said. Zhang Zizai was flattered, but, the Light Dragon tomb is closed. What is the purpose of the God King? As a god, will I not be able to enter? The Light Dragon Lord smiled. He looked like a child, but he spoke so maturely, which looked quite strange. Of course. I'll try my best, Zhang Zizai said. He was able to cultivate the Holy Dragon celestial body to the 3rd level thanks to the Light Cloud Thunderbolt, Burning Sky White Flame and other divine tribulations in the Light Dragon tomb. If the Light Dragon Lord personally led the way, it would be much easier to find these divine tribulations. Just after he agreed, he felt that he had left the Light Dragon city in an instant. He and Longyan could not see the surrounding scenery. It was like flying in the clouds. Everything in the world became illusory. Only the people around him could see clearly. It didn't take long for the bright dragon tomb to appear before their eyes again. Zhang Zizai landed in the dragon mouth of the bright dragon ancestor statue. The passage in front of him was closed, but in the blink of an eye, the passage was directly opened, and the light of the bright dragon tomb appeared in front of Zhang Zizai. "Let's go." The next moment, Zhang Zizai and the others had already entered the bright dragon tomb. There was a dazzling white light in front of them. It was a bit uncomfortable to be here after not coming in for a long time. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1076. Light Dragon Lord did not stop, they continued to fly in the light, and soon after, Zhang Zizai stopped. He had already felt the existence of the divine tribulation. In the area in front of him, there was a fierce tornado, and those strong winds were completely condensed into the shape of blades, running rampant in this dragon tomb. Wherever they went, even the sand and trees that emitted light were blown away and torn into pieces. "This is a chaotic sword wind. You can try it," Light Dragon Lord said. Light Dragon Lord cultivated himself in this way. Zhang Zizai naturally couldn't let him down. After leaving the Light Dragon tomb, there was a period of time when the divine body did not improve. He nodded. At this time he could already control his body. Of course, he rushed into this chaotic sword wind without hesitation. His current ancient divine source power is much stronger than it was at that time. The ancient divine source power can support his divine body to a certain extent, but even so, the holy dragon body must go through the process of breaking and building, so the process of tempering the divine body is still quite painful. Longyan and Lu Dingxing's cultivation of the divine body was actually not as complicated as Zhang Zizai's. As they progressed, their bodies became stronger. Zhang Zizai's absence from studying the holy dragon celestial body for a while allowed them to surpass him. But now, it was time for Zhang Zizai to surpass him. The chaotic blade wind kept tearing his body apart, but was swallowed by him and integrated into his body, turning into a black blade storm. The process was rough, but the result was good. After enduring the peak torture, the chaotic blade wind could no longer withstand his absorption. To be honest, after the totem evolved, he even seemed to have the ability to swallow his own flesh and blood. There are more effects of chaos devouring the heaven, and he has not yet fully explored them. After experiencing the torture of the chaotic blade wind, he successfully broke through to the 4th level of the holy dragon celestial body. Then, the bright dragon lord barely let him rest, and directly brought him to the 2nd divine calamity. This divine calamity was quite special, called Wangmuqi, which was a kind of emerald green gas, born from heaven and earth. This gas could nourish thousands of acres of forests, allowing them to grow majestically and become a forest ocean, but if life was contaminated, then the flesh and blood would turn into grass and trees, and die directly from exhaustion. Ordinary ancient gods did not dare to touch this kind of Wangmuqi, but Zhang Zizai took the challenge at this time. The result was of course tragic. The Wangmuqi swarmed into his body, and his divine body once turned into wood, which shattered at the touch, but he relied on the holy dragon celestial body to hold on, integrating the Wangmuqi into his flesh and blood, and becoming a force controlled by him. The Wangmuqi turned black, and served Zhang Zizai's divine body to attack, directly carrying the power of this Wangmuqi, which would definitely make the enemy defenseless. With one punch, the opponent might directly turn into wood. Of course, now that the holy dragon celestial body has reached the 5th level, it will be even more difficult to continuously merge new divine tribulations. This is also the reason why the holy dragon celestial body has been difficult to cultivate since ancient times. However, the bright dragon lord did not let him go because of his hard work. He was particularly strict and even said, "If you can't even bear this little bit of suffering, don't cultivate the holy dragon celestial body." Although it was an obvious provocation, it was still very useful to Zhang Zizai. He said directly, "Dragon Lord, don't be polite to me. I want to cultivate to the 9th level of the Holy Dragon celestial body in one breath." "Are you sure?" Zhang Zizai was of course sure. If he missed this village, he would miss this shop. Who knows how long this bright Dragon Lord can protect him. If there is any benefit, he must take it quickly. Although it is a hellish devil trial, he still fought hard. After all, coming to the world of the dragon sacrifice divine domain, he knows the importance of strength. His strength is still low, so there is no way to find the 9 immortals. He can only wait for the other party to come to him, but what if she is just an ordinary ancient god? How can she come to the bright dragon clan? Zhang Zizai has not seen other totem ancient gods in the dragon sacrifice divine domain yet, all here are dragon totems. The next divine calamity is called Tebei Jinggang. This is a kind of gang qi, which shuttles between heaven and earth like sword qi. No matter what it encounters, it can almost pierce through it. It is equivalent to countless flying swords. When Zhang Zizai endured this Tebei Jinggang, he felt like being pierced by thousands of swords. It was really terrible. Tebei Jinggang was more terrible than all the divine calamities he had encountered before. When Zhang Zizai melted it all into his body could naturally burst out black gang qi, like a sharp sword. On the basis of other thunder, fire, cold water, and storm, he was now equivalent to a hedgehog covered with sword qi. The 6th level of the Holy Dragon celestial body was already terrible, but the big talk had already been said, and Zhang Zizai continued to insist, even though he was a little trembling at this time. Fortunately, after performing the Taixu Universe Soul Refining Technique, he was able to ease up a little. After all, he couldn't let the bright Dragon Lord mock him. He didn't give Zhang Zizai a chance to rest at all. He found the bone-penetrating earth essence and extremely cold black ice for him again. These two kinds of divine calamities were slightly better, but after all, they were superimposed on the divine body, so they were also a terrifying level of torture. Among them, the bone-penetrating earth essence and the ghostwood true qi were very similar, and their function was to dissolve flesh and blood into mud. At this time, he was already the 8th level of the Holy Dragon celestial body. Although the whole process was catastrophic, the gains were equally huge. Even the bright Dragon Lord said that in terms of divine bodies, among the gods, there were not many people who could compare with Zhang Zizai. His current body can withstand a strong fighting capacity. Are you confident to challenge the 9th level? It's already like this, why don't you take the last step? Zhang Zizai asked back. Very good, and courageous, but I heard that the last level of torture is worse than the other 8 levels combined. You can only become a master if you endure hardships, Zhang Zizai said. I'm afraid that if you try to be brave, you will lose your life. That's impossible. In front of Longzun, there is no possibility in the world for me to die, Zhang Zizai said. Get out of here and stop flattering me. Guangming Dragon Lord made him laugh, but he also seemed to admire Zhang Zizai's courage and willpower. The final divine tribulation is called the Rising Sun Aurora. This is a kind of bright power, most common in the bright dragon tomb, but it is almost the same as Baimu's eternal annihilation holy light, with terrifying penetrating power. This was definitely Zhang Zizai's most painful experience. To be honest, he even backed down and boasted, but after all, he was already riding on the tiger's head. He had to use all his strength and persist desperately, and finally relied on the immortal will of Zhantian, and Taixu Universe Soul Refining Technique forced him to survive, but after he withstood a disaster that was close to death, he felt like he was reborn from nirvana. At that moment, the Holy Dragon's celestial body was completed. At this moment, his physical body reached an extremely terrifying level. In the realm of the ancient gods, it was unprecedented and unprecedented. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1077. His divine body possesses 9 kinds of powers. When these 9 kinds of powers are gathered together, they are even equivalent to the power of a god-king level totem. Just by fighting with his divine body, he can defeat almost all the invincible opponents in the ancient god realm. The power of his punch directly possesses the explosive power of 9 kinds of divine calamities. Who can block this power? When he uses the heaven sacrifice dragon divine halberd, he should be even more invincible. At this time, Zhang Zizai possesses a fighting power that is much beyond the realm of the divine source. Even the bright dragon lord subconsciously held his hand on his long beard and said, "Since King War God created this holy dragon celestial body, no one has ever been able to cultivate to the 9th level. You can be regarded as a relief to him. He must have been an old man before to act like this, but now he looks old-fashioned." Zhang Zizai felt it and felt that his divine body was so strong that it exploded, directly impacting from the 3rd level to the 9th level. To be honest, it was indeed a bit exaggerated, but he knew very well how much suffering he had suffered, especially in the end. Once, life was worse than death for a long time. This is the strength gained through training, and it is definitely deserved. His current Tianyi soul is supported by the will of the immortal war heaven. His divine body is the top-level holy dragon celestial body. His source of destruction has reached the 9th level of the ancient god realm. His growth in the 3 major aspects can be said to be perfect. Much more perfect than anyone else. Okay, you've made a lot of money, and you can still hold a beautiful woman in your arms. Your wedding is just a few days away. Go back and prepare well. Congratulations, Guangming Dragon Lord Lao Huai said with relief. After saying that, he sent them back directly. After returning to the Tianlong Shrine, they found that there were many people waiting for them. They were some divine kings, all ant-level figures. They were all dressed up in fancy clothes. When they saw Zhang Zizai and the others, their eyes lit up. One of the women named Yun Ni Shenjun said, "You are back. There are only 7 days left. Now the guests are almost here. There is not much time. Everything else has been arranged. God King Guanzhou asked me to come. I am responsible for dressing you up and guiding you in the details of the wedding. Don't practice during these 7 days. This wedding is of great importance and affects the face of our Guangming Dragon clan. There must be no mistakes. The 2 young ancestors have a lot to lose. You have to follow my arrangements. If Zhang Zizai and the others don't come back, she will be as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. Of course, you make arrangements and we just follow them," Zhang Zizai said. "Anyway, this marriage is mainly about the face of the Guangming Dragon clan. It is the Guangming Dragon Lord showing off his genius. Zhang Zizai and Long Yan are just at their mercy. It is just a ceremony anyway. To put it bluntly, they are an opportunity. After the wedding, they can leave. The key is for the bright dragon lord to entertain the guests." Seeing that Zhang Zizai was so easy to talk to, Lord Yuni was very satisfied. There were more details about Long Yan, so she accepted the arrangements first. Zhang Zizai went back to meet Lingdang first. The little girl already knew about the wedding. In the quiet courtyard, Zhang Zizai hugged her and said, "What are you thinking about my wedding with Aunt Yan? She has grown up, and she cannot hide this kind of thing. Auntie said that you were forced to have no choice but to remain good friends from now on," Lingdang said innocently. "Well, that's about it. Don't be unhappy," Zhang Zizai said. "Of course not. Lingdang knows father's affection for mother. Lingdang knew it when she was in mother's belly." She tilted her head and said, "You know this, do you often eavesdrop on our conversations?" Zhang Zizai said with a straight face. "Of course, why are you so shy and irritable all the time? Don't you know there are children around?" Humph. Zhang Zizai really couldn't laugh or cry. This little thing must have become a spirit. Remember that she was born early and was only a little bit in the belly, but she still dared to eavesdrop. "Dad, where is mother?" Lingdang always dreams about her. I feel like she is calling me. Every time I am about to see her, I suddenly wake up. She pulled Zhang Zizai's hand. Said the skirt. Really? Do you feel it? Zhang Zizai asked. Yes. Haha, maybe she will show up at Dad's wedding and beat me up, Zhang Zizai laughed. Of course, he was just joking. He had been waiting for her since arriving in the little god's realm, but there was never any news from her. When you left in the first place, why didn't you give yourself more clues? He was depressed. Maybe after the wedding, he would find a way on his own and go out to find her in person. I miss you so much that I can't wait any longer. He held the bell and looked at the stars in the sky in trance. He didn't notice that the small white bell in Lingdang's arm suddenly trembled. Lingdang was startled, and when she lowered her head and saw that there was no movement, she hugged her father's neck, nestled in his arms, and slowly fell asleep. In her dream, she saw her mother again. She was gentle and touching, and Lingding was very excited. She ran and wanted to throw herself into her mother's arms. Suddenly, her face changed, turning into a green face with fangs, and she even stuck out a ferocious blood-red tongue. Wow, she woke up crying in fear. It turned out to be a dream. The day of the Holy Dragon Lantern Festival arrived as scheduled. During these times, Zhang Zizai and Long Yan learned a lot of etiquette under the control of Lord Yuni, and even rehearsed the specific procedures. The process was very grand, but after all, it was boring and they might as well practice. Of course, this is something for the face of the Light Dragon clan, so of course it must be grand and majestic. Zhang Zizai had seen Long Yan's wedding dress, which was really grand and majestic. It was full of various rare pearls and gems. Quite a lot of treasures gathered together, but it did not look vulgar. At this moment, she was indeed so beautiful that it made Zhang Zizai feel like he was seeing her in a grand dress for the first time. Perhaps the only thing wrong was that she was still ready to marry him, and he was not ready to marry her. Yun Ni Shenjun kept praising his work. With this arrangement, she had promised Guanzhou Shenhuang that there would be no accidents on that day. The Holy Dragon Lantern Festival is also a big festival for the Holy Dragon clan. Every clan will hang lanterns and celebrate. This time, the bigwigs received invitations from the Light Dragon clan and came to the Light Dragon city. This day has arrived. Zhang Zizai has not gone out yet, but he can already see the bright lights outside, and countless performances. From the early morning, there are constant songs and dragons flying in the sky. Long Yan was taken away 2 days ago, and early this morning, he was also taken out for the final dressing. He looked a bit like a puppet. Oh, you are still not happy, Yun Ni Shenjun said contemptuously. No, haha. Zhang Zizai smiled and let her do whatever she wanted. It was very lively outside. But why was I a little uneasy in my heart? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1078. The guests have arrived, and the outside is earth-shaking, with singing and dancing. The Light Dragon Lord is a person who loves face very much, so he must make this banquet glorious and grand. The Light Dragon clan has 2 such geniuses, both of whom are unprecedented in history. They are really lucky. After all, the Light Dragon Lord must know that this is actually equivalent to picking up. No matter how Zhang Zizai and Long Yan look at it, they have nothing to do with the Light Dragon clan. Originally, Long Yan's supreme dragon bloodline plus the potential of a god were enough experience. As a result, Zhang Zizai not only has the potential of a god, but also obtained the source of evolution in the origin dragon cave. Now he has a god king level totem. From his defeat of Bai Mu, it can be clearly seen that his future achievements will definitely be above Bai Mu, and Bai Mu is already the top genius of the entire Holy Dragon clan at this age. With the vision of the Light Dragon Lord, he naturally knew that if the two of them grew up well, they would definitely be the peerless pride of the Light Dragon clan, and even the future Holy Dragon clan. More importantly, they were also a couple of gods. Moreover, Lu Dingxing and Suqianyu also had a very bright future, which was also Zhang Zizai's capital. This wedding feast was a declaration of the Light Dragon clan. From now on, the two of them were indeed enough to attract the attention of the entire Holy Dragon clan, and even the entire Supreme Dragon clan. In the next 1,000 years, their development was enough to make people imagine. Yun'an Divine Lord arranged all this, and finally when it was the most noisy outside, she came in anxiously and asked Zhang Zizai to hurry out, and it was about to start. Next, it was to come to the guests in the light. Zhang Zizai held Long Yan's white little hand and came to the public. They all had the will of the God King, which could allow them to maintain a stable state of mind under the gaze of many God Kings and gods. This time, there were even more guests than in the Origin Dragon Cave last time. Looking around, all the prominent figures of the entire Holy Dragon clan have gathered here. Including Zixiao Dragon Lord, who is very at odds with Guangming Dragon Lord. The gods are naturally in the highest position, and there are countless God Kings sitting in the seats. For the entire Holy Dragon clan, no matter how extraordinary the genius is, it seems insignificant. When they came out, the singing and dancing stopped temporarily, and there were only shining fireworks in the sky. Even in the daytime, the sky showed a colorful beauty. The two of them naturally looked more dazzling in the glory. They must know that Zhang Zizai has now defeated Bai Mu, and has made a lot of progress compared to when he was in the Origin Dragon Cave. In fact, these two people are still very envied by other Holy Dragon clan members. No matter how you look at it, they are actually not suitable for the Guangming Dragon clan. Guangming Dragon Lord is really lucky to have them. The compliments were said before they came out. Now, under the guidance of Lord Yun'an, Zhang Zizai and Long Yan walked to the stage that belonged to them. It was a more core position. After standing here, they would be married under the gaze of the entire Holy Dragon clan. This feeling of being in the glory was indeed very pleasant, but it was also like floating in the sky. Because the so-called genius was still a weak person before becoming a strong man. There were countless people in the dragon sacrifice divine domain who could easily kill him. He was just equivalent to a toddler, so it was very important to clearly understand his position. Maybe it would be a little better after becoming a lord. The ancient god realm was only the most basic bottom layer of the dragon sacrifice divine domain. In the dragon sacrifice divine domain, it was rare not to become an ancient god. In any case, at least Long Yan was a little more nervous than herself. Zhang Zizai held her hand tightly, which made her relax a little. This moment was like a dream. The wedding ceremony of the Holy Dragon clan was not quite the same as that of the Yanlong dynasty, but it was almost the same. The ceremony and process were not important. What was important was the witness of so many important people. Under the witness of these gods and gods, Yun'an, as the host, guided the ceremony with great emotion. At the end, they only needed to drink a cup of wine to become a formal couple. The Supreme Dragon clan advocates monogamy, and here they still emphasize the loyalty of love, because the inheritance of blood is the foundation of the Supreme Dragon clan's reproduction, especially in the other four Supreme Dragon clans. If there is unfaithfulness in love, there is even a risk of being punished. As for marrying with non-dragon totem ancient gods, it is not feasible, and parents will basically not agree. In order to prevent mistakes, Yun'an, the god, rehearsed him several times during this process. In fact, such a wedding process will not have a very good feeling, because it is too serious, a bit like a chess piece. Zhang Zizai held the wine glass and looked at the girl in front of him with a red veil. He remembered that he had been against her like this before. Fate is very interesting. They stood together like this again. Hurry, Yun and I, God reminded on the side. After all, the guests and elders were watching. After their ceremony was over, the elders continued to drink and have fun, drinking and talking, and discussing tribal affairs. After this process was over, Zhang Zizai and Long Yan could also withdraw from the focus. Today they were just the protagonists in appearance. The real protagonist was the face of the Bright Dragon clan. For some reason, Zhang Zizai's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. He was not nervous about marrying Long Yan, but a sixth sense of danger. He just looked up suddenly and saw that everything was normal. Everyone was staring at him. The God King and the gods looked at him with smiles and admiration. But why at this moment, it seemed that the whole world had lost its voice. Belle, Zhang Zizai knew the reason for this palpitation. Perhaps it was the induction between father and daughter. He intuitively felt that she was not safe. At this time, Belle should still be in the Tianlong Palace, and Zhang Zizai did not let her come over. He hurriedly used the mother and child ring to feel Belle's position, but he never expected that the result obtained by the mother and child ring was that Belle was reaching the top of his head from the Tianlong Palace at an unimaginable speed. That's right, it was Zhang Zizai's head. At that moment, the whole world was quiet. It seemed that even the top gods in the periphery, the core gods, and the most respected gods all shut their mouths for a while, and the whole world was quietly dead. Zhang Zizai felt as if there were needles on his head. His legs trembled and he even had the urge to fall down. Why? This feeling directly magnified the initial uneasiness. The pressure was very great, but Zhang Zizai still gritted his teeth and forced himself to raise his head, because Belle was here, and he couldn't retreat. When he looked up and saw clearly, he couldn't describe the feeling. It was the first time in such a long time that his brain was completely frozen. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1079. He had imagined the scene countless times, but never thought that he would meet her in such an occasion. He was wearing red makeup and getting married. And in his eyes, the person he thought about day and night, she held the bell in her arms and stood high to look at him. Beside her, there was the man that Zhang Zizai was also familiar with. His name was Jushan. She finally came. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Zhang Zizai couldn't explain the feeling. She was completely different from when she was just resurrected. It was impossible to describe her temperament and appearance at the moment. Anyway, it made people feel that she was unattainable. It was the feeling of the Supreme of heaven and earth, and it was a feeling that was more awe-inspiring than the Light Dragon Lord and the others. However, she was more beautiful than before. This kind of appearance was suffocating, and it was indescribable in any words, and even trembling. In this world, no one can compare to her beauty, and no one can compare to her elegance. What kind of nobleness is that? Zhang Zizai's mind was blank. After the blank, he had forgotten that he was getting married, and his face showed ecstasy. He wanted to speak, wanted to shout her name loudly, and imagined that he had a lot of love words to say to her, but he was stuck for a while and couldn't say a word. Although he was a big man, he was excited and incoherent at this time. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. When Zhang Zizai had difficulty speaking, she made some movements. She reached out and took off the white little bell hanging on Lingling's neck, and then crushed it. The crisp sound seemed to pierce the dead silence. Lingling hugged her neck, intimate and happy. Tears flowed down, but these were tears of happiness. She then pointed at Zhang Zizai, asking Zhang Zizai to go over too. It can be seen that she is really happy. She has never really met her mother. How can she not be happy when they finally meet? Zhang Zizai tried to calm himself down and suppressed the words in his throat. He just wanted to go there and leave with them, but for some reason, his legs felt as heavy as if they were filled with lead. After this process, Juxian's hand reached into Lingdang's arms. Lingdang's chest was where she moved her reincarnation calamity here. This reincarnation calamity will be enough to take her life when Lingdang grows up. This is one of the reasons why Zhang Zizai was in a hurry to find her. Zhang Zizai saw that she actually pinched out a curse seal in Lingdang's arms. In this way, it means that Lingdang's reincarnation calamity has been completely resolved. Zhang Zizai breathed a sigh of relief. She is indeed not simple. She can easily handle it like this. The fact that she can appear here like this also shows that she is not simple. I didn't expect that she, whom I met in Qingyang realm, is such a big figure in the dragon sacrifice divine domain. He finally calmed down a little now. He was too excited just now, so he was a little confused. After calming down, he was about to go there. At this moment, she gently swung the reincarnation calamity in her hand, and the curse of reincarnation calamity disappeared instantly. The next moment, the curse appeared beside Zhang Zizai. He didn't understand what it meant. When he was about to ask, the curse hit Long Yan's body. Long Yan snorted slightly. She probably knew that there seemed to be changes, so she took off the veil and saw her in the sky. Juxian priest. She covered her chest, not knowing what it was, and seemed to be a little painful. But Zhang Zizai knew that the curse seemed to be integrated into her body. It was manipulated by Juxian's parents. What did she want to do? Zhang Zizai was anxious. He knew that Juxian must be angry because he saw him and Long Yan getting married, but this was just a misunderstanding. Of course, he wanted to make it clear. The curse was not a good thing. It was a deadly devil. Before he spoke, she spoke first. She smiled faintly, and then said, "You came early. This curse will take another 10 years to take effect. After 10 years, she will be as old as a corpse, just like me." Zhang Zizai was stunned. This misunderstanding was too deep. He hurriedly said, "Jur, it's not that you want to." Before he finished speaking, he was swallowed up by other voices. In an instant, a storm was set off. It turned out that it was the Lord of Light Dragon who appeared beside him, and there were other gods and gods. At this time, they all gathered and blocked Zhang Zizai in front of them. For a while, Zhang Zizai was surrounded and couldn't see her at all, and a large number of people were leaving here. "Immortal Lord! You have been destroyed. How can you be reborn? How can you be reborn?" This was the voice of the Lord of Light Dragon. Zhang Zizai was surprised to find that there was deep fear in his words. Was this the words of the Lord of Light Dragon? Who is the Lord of Light? 9 Immortals. Zhang Zizai's Jur. I saw with my own eyes that your soul was shattered. You were already dead. This is absolutely impossible, said another god. It should be Xian Dragon Lord. Their voices were filled with great fear, and this fear made Zhang Zizai extremely stunned. He thought that her previous identity should be okay, but now it sounds like she is even more exaggerated than he imagined. After their fearful words, there was a deathly silence. The person in front of him was slightly away, and Zhang Zizai saw her again, but could only see her face. It was a face so beautiful that it made people breathless. Zhang Zizai could see more clearly how different it was from before, that is, now she was an unimaginable supreme life, that was an invisible dignity that was destined to make people humble. Her eyes penetrated everyone and fell on Zhang Zizai. The feeling at that moment was a bit desperate. Then, Zhang Zizai heard her say, "I gave her a name, called Lingling. You did a good job in sending her here in such a short time. From now on, she only has a mother, no father." It sounded a bit heartless. Zhang Zizai forced a smile, and he hurriedly said, "Misunderstood, this time is the same as the previous time. I don't know why, it's obviously like this, but in front of her eyes, saying such words seems a bit ridiculous. It's not a misunderstanding, but I'm not your Jur." After saying that, the corners of her mouth slightly hooked, revealing a hint of indifferent smile. This was her answer to Zhang Zizai. She didn't care what happened between him and Long Yan. But if she didn't care, why did she put the reincarnation calamity on Long Yan? Get rid of the reincarnation calamity first, and we can talk about the other things slowly, Zhang Zizai said. He didn't expect the meeting to be like this. He felt really bad. If she beat him up for this matter, it would be fine, but why did she involve Yan'er? Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1080. But when Zhang Zizai just finished saying this, she didn't look at him again, as if Zhang Zizai could no longer attract her attention. What she was facing were the gods. More than 40 gods of the Holy Dragon clan gathered together, and they were actually nervous and solemn about her appearance. Why can I come back alive? You can ask this genius called Zhang Zizai, she said with a smile. After saying this, she lifted her long hair at the temples. At this moment, she was still charming. When people were at a loss, she continued, I came here today to officially announce to you that I am back. Next, the Supreme Dragon Clan, the original debt must be paid with blood. I am lucky to be reborn, so, one day in the future, this sacrifice dragon god domain will be changed to my name, and the Supreme Dragon Clan is only worthy of being my mount. Blood debt paid with blood. Sacrifice dragon god domain, to be changed to her name. The Supreme Dragon Clan is only worthy of being her mount. What is this saying? It was beyond Zhang Zizai's comprehension. People called her immortal venerable. What kind of person was she in her previous life? Zhang Zizai's brain almost exploded. All this happened suddenly, beyond all his expectations. In her previous life, she came from a place called Earth. Zhang Zizai was familiar with her. She was a teacher, and lived a simple life with her mother. And the previous life she missed was an existence called Immortal Venerable. However, when she just reincarnated successfully, she was not like this now. Why did she return to the Sacrifice Dragon Divine Domain, but she was not the same as before? Is it because she married Yan'er? However, what she said was that this was irrelevant, and what she said now was actually declaring war on the entire Supreme Dragon Clan. What it means is that it was the Supreme Dragon Clan that forced her to reincarnate and destroy her body. This is indeed a blood feud. It is really not easy for her to come back again. It is a matter of life and death. You are looking for death. Don't be arrogant. If we can kill you once, we can kill you countless times. Dare to provoke my Supreme Dragon Clan, no matter how many times, you will never recover, another god shouted at the top of his lungs. But after he finished speaking, all he got was the sneer of contempt from the 9 immortals. She never looked at Zhang Zizai again, but held the bell and turned away. Maybe she had said what she wanted to say. The future depends on actions. What's the point of talking too much? Stop, Zhang Zizai shouted, and she left just like that. What should Yan'er do? Zhang Zizai could tolerate her contempt for himself, but after all, Long Yan was innocent. But at this moment, he felt despised again because she didn't pay any attention to him at all. All this was too different from all the fantasies, enough to wake Zhang Zizai up from the dream of genius and realize how insignificant he was. Daddy. When she turned around, Lingling stretched out her hand, trying to grab her, but in an instant, her figure and Lingling disappeared between heaven and earth, and Jushan, the person who silently guarded her, also left. When she disappeared, the entire Guangming Dragon City fell into absolute silence. She wanted to leave, and no one dared to stop her. Zhang Zizai said stop, just like an ant asking a tiger to stop. Will the tiger listen? Zhang Zizai, at this time, a passage appeared in the crowd, and all the gods and gods surrounded him. Everyone's face was very ugly, especially Guangming Longzun. He appeared directly in front of Zhang Zizai and said in a deep voice, This witch said that you let her reincarnate. How can you let her reincarnate? He was very angry and very irritable, so this question put a lot of pressure on Zhang Zizai. Longzun, calm down. Tianlong Shenhuang appeared beside Zhang Zizai and protected Zhang Zizai a little. It's a serious matter, speak up quickly, Guangming Longzun said. Who would have thought that a grand wedding would turn into earth-shattering bad news? This is a catastrophic change for the entire Supreme Dragon clan. Zhang Zizai knew that they must be scared. After all, they killed her. Now, the more excited they are, the more they show their fear. His mind is blank now, and Yanner's reincarnation calamity makes him very uncomfortable. She was originally unrelated to all this, but now she can only live for 10 years. Is there any hope? Under the questioning of the gods and kings, he took a deep breath and said, "It's not complicated. I was born in an ordinary totem world and fell in love with her. When her reincarnation calamity came, I helped her survive. We also have a daughter, and then, I came to the dragon god realm to find her. As for why her soul collapsed or reincarnated, it can only mean that she is not dead. But the dragon lords could hear that if it wasn't for Zhang Zizai, she would have failed to reincarnate and would have really disappeared. Many gods who wanted revenge and chose to reincarnate ended up failing to reincarnate, and their bodies and spirits were truly annihilated. You say it easily, but do you know what kind of disaster everything you do will cause to our Supreme Dragon clan?" the Bright Dragon Lord roared. At this moment, he almost felt like killing Zhang Zizai. "Dragon Lord, this can't be blamed on him. It's just that he happened to meet the Immortal Lord in his life. He doesn't know so much, this can only be said to be a helpless coincidence." Unexpectedly, the heavenly dragon god king was still helping him speak at this time. "Shut up," the Bright Dragon Lord scolded him. In fact, Juxian told them that it was Zhang Zizai who made her reborn, which was equivalent to putting Zhang Zizai in danger. If he met someone who was furious, he might kill him directly. It seemed a bit cruel. She could easily take away the reincarnation calamity, but she put it on Yanner, which seemed to be more hateful. But what does all this mean to her blood debt and enslavement of the Supreme Dragon Lord? How could it be possible to defeat the master of the dragon sacrifice domain without blood flowing into rivers? Zhang Zizai took a deep breath, and he was a little confused at the moment. This kind of thing is probably impossible to recover in a few days, and what's more uncomfortable is that this time Yanner was really implicated. 10 years of life and death, how cruel. These people used to praise me, but now they only have anger in their eyes. It can be seen that many people want to strangle me to death directly. Everyone, don't worry about him. This is a disaster for our clan. Although it is related to him, it has already happened. What can we do? What can we save by killing him? It's fate. The most urgent thing is to take precautions and pass this news to the other 4 Supreme Dragon clans immediately. Let's discuss countermeasures. If we can kill her the first time, we can kill her the second time. Besides, she must have been reborn not long ago. Who can be sure that she can still have the strength she had before? The person who spoke was King Mu Longzun. He was not speaking for Zhang Zizai, but was just speaking in a more rational way. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1081. Let's act quickly. Go back and prepare for defense first, and prevent the attack of the Chaos Demon Realm at any time. Then send a message and gather everyone to find out how to kill her, said the Dragon Lord of Light. Bye. Ask Zhang Zizai more, maybe there will be some details, and from these details, maybe we can find a way to deal with her. They were anxious and hurried to make arrangements. From the grand wedding to this moment, everyone was like ants on a hot pot, and only a quarter of an hour had passed. but Zhang Zizai would never forget her cold and noble eyes. Why would a person change like this? Do you want to know the reason? Tianlong Shenhuang suddenly asked himself, as if he understood what Zhang Zizai was thinking. Zhang Zizai nodded. Although the history of the immortal venerable is only 10,000 years, much less than that of other gods, the few years with you are just a blink of an eye for her 10,000 years of life. What can a blink of an eye have? It's because your life is too short that you care. Maybe she has just been reborn and doesn't have so many memories. Now everything is restored. You are just a speck of dust in her life. How could she care about you? Zhang Zizai, your life is too short. Don't you know that after a long life, feelings are sometimes quite ridiculous? Tianlong Shenhuang said. Is that so? Zhang Zizai thought what he said made sense. When a supreme being returns to her own identity, what does a blink of an eye mean to her? Compared to you, she values her bloodline more. Lingling is her daughter, so she came this time to announce her return and challenge us, and to take her daughter away. As for you, it seems that she doesn't care, he said again. Zhang Zizai didn't even give Lingling a big name, just to wait until he saw her and give her a name together, but she gave it directly and just notified her. All this made the heavenly dragon god king seem quite ridiculous when he talked about it. Is he happy that she is so brilliant? Zhang Zizai didn't feel anything at all. He hoped that she was just an ordinary god lord, or a god king, so that he could go back to the past and live the way he imagined. But now, he is as humble as a mouse. Everything in the past was buried directly in the memory. Maybe for others, it is a great thing that he has slept with the immortal venerable and even had a daughter. This is even more ironic, because this is not what he longs for. Immortal venerable? A name that Zhang Zizai is unfamiliar with, but it is completely connected with Zhu'er in his heart. She was the leader of the Chaos Demon realm that rose 10,000 years ago. Her strength was terrifying, so terrifying that the entire Supreme Dragon clan was afraid of her. The Supreme Dragon clan had always controlled the Chaos Demon realm, but because of her existence, they lost control. She even intended to dominate the Sacrifice Dragon Divine realm, so she eventually angered the Supreme Dragon clan. All the gods in the clan gathered in the Chaos Demon realm and forcibly killed her. I remember that her subordinate, the Dark Demon, was almost dead at that time. I didn't expect that she could be reborn after being completely destroyed. This person is really terrifying. Her name of the Immortal Venerable is well known in the 49 divine realms, the heavenly dragon god king said. Zhang Zizai knew that the Chaos Demon realm was part of the Sacrifice Dragon Divine realm. All the ancient gods who were not dragon totems lived in the Chaos Demon realm. The conditions in the Chaos Demon realm were not very good. Since ancient times, it has been a chaotic place, with heroes fighting each other. At least in the Sacrifice Dragon Divine realm, the ancient gods in the Chaos Demon realm were inferior to others. Now, he had a little outline of the whole thing. Anyway, she chose reincarnation because she was unwilling to die in battle. This time she came back, she must make her enemies pay with blood. Since she dared to show up, it also shows that she is no longer afraid of the Supreme Dragon clan. Zhu'er, so terrible, is it a blessing or a curse? Her revenge seems to be natural, right? If the future lives are destroyed, whose fault is it? Sometimes, right and wrong are unclear. But it seems that she seems to have nothing to do with him. In front of her, Zhang Zizai has become a speck of dust. It's a bit funny, a bit ridiculous. But he was a little angry, because Lingdang was also his, he loved her so much, why did she take her away just like she said, and let Lingdang never see him again? Moreover, why did she treat herself as a speck of dust without giving her a chance to explain, but put the curse of death on Long Yan, because she suffered the torture of reincarnation, so she had to torture Long Yan? Such a woman is of course so strange that it makes people feel chilled. But she seems to be right, blood debts pay with blood, What's wrong with that? It's nothing for you. Go back and calm down for a while. I will ask the Light Dragon Lord about Longyan's matter to see if there is any way to solve it, the Heavenly Dragon God King said. Now they are all very busy with establishing defensive measures and spreading news. Today's most grand wedding of the Holy Dragon Lantern Festival is now a joke that no one pays attention to. After saying this, even the Heavenly Dragon God King left. Maybe they all heard that it was him who made the female demon reborn, so the people of the entire Light Dragon Lord always looked at him with some strange eyes. They seemed not to approach Zhang Zizai anymore, and even had some resentment. After all, from their point of view, if it weren't for you, how could the Supreme Dragon Clan have such a terrible threat today? If there is a disaster in the future, it may be attributed to him. In any case, Zhang Zizai felt that he had to hold on. He and Longyan looked at each other. Now the world was in chaos. He gritted his teeth and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't expect this to happen. I will definitely find a way to deal with the reincarnation calamity." This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading. Brother Zizai, she pursed her lips and said, "I told you not to worry about me. In fact, I should have made her angry about what happened today. I should have apologized to you. If I had directly refused the marriage, it might not be like this today." No, Zhang Zizai shook her head. If she had refused at the beginning, she might have escaped, but this had nothing to do with Juxian's desire to make the Supreme Dragon Clan pay for their blood debt with blood, and it had nothing to do with her taking the bell away. In fact, I know that you are the most uncomfortable person now. Don't comfort me, and don't worry about my affairs. I'm serious. When have you ever seen Yanner afraid of death? She tried to force a smile and said to Zhang Zizai easily. It seems that from the beginning, there was no life or death in her eyes. So she can still look at herself with a smile now, and she also wants to make herself feel more relaxed and not anxious about the reincarnation calamity. Besides, who knows what will happen in 10 years? We haven't known each other for 10 years yet, she said with a smile. In fact, she should also know that her involvement is not the main reason for the current situation between Zhang Zizai and Juxian. The identity of the immortal venerable is the core of this problem, but even so, she must feel guilty. 10 years is indeed a long time. If there is a way to solve it, Zhang Zizai can be more relieved. He urgently needs to calm down now to know what to do next. He found that life is sometimes too exciting. The brother and sister who sacrificed to the temple at the beginning, they are the immortal venerable and the nether demon who are feared by the dragon god realm. She is so noble, but one day, can he really stand in front of her and talk to her equally? Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1082. After returning to the Tianlong Palace, everyone looked at each other in silence. Zhang Yuning and the others all knew what had happened. Lingling was raised by her, and now she might never come back. No matter what, she was sad. But in front of Zhang Zizai, she still held back, because she knew that it was Zhang Zizai who was more difficult to accept at this time. However, after returning, Zhang Zizai also knew that there was no need to be depressed, and he still had a lot of things to do. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. At least no matter what, Longyan's reincarnation calamity must be cleared. I just didn't say goodbye to Lingling properly, and I don't know if Juxian will treat her well. If it's not good, Zhang Zizai can't stand it. He is not a person who will be discouraged. No matter what level of strong man, even if he is in awe, there are some things that must be done, and he can't be cowardly. After a good chat with Zhang Yuning, life went on as usual. Their Tianlong Palace was calm, but the entire Zilong Divine Domain was in turmoil because of the return of the Immortal Lord and the Nether Demon. On the contrary, Longyan seemed to be fine, and practiced as usual. Maybe she felt that death was not terrible, and maybe 10 years was a long time for her life, so she didn't seem to care at all. Of course, it might also be because she didn't want to worry about Zhang Zizai's reincarnation disaster. After all, it was really difficult for him to accept the changes of Juxian. In his imagination, he brought the bell and crossed such a long distance to find her. When they met, it should be the most perfect time, which was what the family of three dreamed of. This was Zhang Ziyai's vision over the years. He had imagined countless scenes, but never thought it would be like this. He missed all the lingering with her, and was waiting to pour all the thoughts of these years into her. Who could have thought that when they met again, she would have become a towering and unreachable mountain? That high and mighty, noble and mysterious, ethereal and sacred look is completely different from the one in his mind. She was so free and easy, straightforward and sexy, affectionate, humorous and innocent, lazy and natural. That was the one Zhang Zizai longed for. All the ones in his memory were not the ones at this time, so there was always some strangeness. But from another perspective, she only wanted to pay blood debt with blood now. Is that wrong? What Zhang Zizai could not bear the most was that the one she was at that time was equivalent to death for the current immortal venerable. Juxian, it seemed, no longer existed. His mind was filled with her every frown and smile, all the fights and quarrels between her and him, all the love words. But, if she was equivalent to death, then he did not dare to think about it, and now he could only hope that she would at least not completely delete this memory and the past. Otherwise, Zhang Zizai might not be able to accept it. That would definitely be the worst news in his life. It would definitely be a bolt from the blue. He didn't know the immortal venerable yet, so he couldn't make a conclusion. He had only seen her a few times before, so how could he know what she would do? Now all the speculations were meaningless. A few days later, the heavenly dragon god king came back. "I have something to tell you," the heavenly dragon god king said with some seriousness. Zhang Zizai originally wanted to ask him if he could ask the bright dragon venerable if there was any way to eliminate Long Yan's reincarnation calamity. You say he nodded and listened first. The matter of the immortal venerable has caused a strong reaction from the Supreme Dragon clan. The important figures of the 5 Supreme Dragon clans have gathered together in the past few days and have decided to set off tomorrow to the Chaos Demon Realm to kill the immortal venerable once again. This time they have decided to completely eliminate the threat, the heavenly dragon god king said. Zhang Zizai was silent. This was actually not unexpected. The Supreme Dragon clan might indeed do this. They had once surrounded and killed the immortal venerable. Now the other party has issued a declaration of war and asked for blood debts to be paid with blood. As the absolute overlord of the sacrifice dragon divine domain, how could they be willing to bear such a provocation? The decision to kill the Chaos Demon Realm today can only be said to be because they are waiting for everyone to gather. After all, many people will definitely not be able to show up directly. After all, these top figures are not always in the dragon god domain. The main force is all gods, and some god kings are selected, and I am one of them. At that time, I may be mainly responsible for harassment and the like, and it will not be my turn to really kill the immortals. This time, the Supreme Dragon clan can be said to have come out in full force, and the scale of the siege is larger than the last time. She dared to issue a challenge here, and the Supreme Dragon clan will not let her have any chance to live, Tianlong God King said. Yes, I know, Zhang Zizai nodded. I know you definitely don't want her to die, and your daughter is also there, and she will definitely be affected. So, aren't you worried? Tianlong God King said. Some concerns, but she shouldn't be stupid, daring to show up like this to issue a challenge. There must be some preparation. Is she the kind of arrogant and brainless person? Zhang Zizai asked. No, your argument was mentioned by the Supreme Dragon clan during the discussion, so the details will depend on the start of the war. But no matter what, it has been confirmed that the whole clan will be dispatched to encircle and suppress the enemy. We will gather and set off tomorrow, said the Heavenly Dragon God King. The battle in the god realm is about to start. In this calm, Zhang Zizai smelled the suffocating smell of gunpowder. Can you take me with you? Zhang Zizai asked. To be honest, even if you go, you won't be able to change anything. This is a battle between the masters of the divine realm, and I am very powerless. And you are too young. Even if you and Immortal Lord have an easy time, she is also a person who has been around for tens of thousands of years. I'm old enough to be your 18th generation ancestor, the heavenly dragon god king said. Let me go and take a look. Maybe she can't help it, and I can take my daughter away, Zhang Zizai said. The heavenly dragon god king is indeed right. Regardless of what she and the 9 immortals had in the past, this is not worth talking about at all, because she, like those gods, are all extremely ancient ancestors, and they are all the rulers of this vast divine realm. Is also the ruler of countless totem worlds, and he is just a wechat in his 20s. Being able to have a daughter with the immortal lord can only be regarded as a little bit special, but among the group of gods, no one can pay attention to this speck of dust. He did come to the dragon sacrifice realm, but in fact, he was still completely like a newborn child. Zhang Zizai requested this. The heavenly dragon god king thought for a moment and said, I have an ability called Mirror Dragon Space. I can take you there. Through the Mirror Dragon Space, you can see part of the scene I saw. However, you are not allowed to come out during the whole process. This time, you can only watch it, because this is not a small fight between geniuses, this is related to the millions-year-old pattern of the dragon sacrifice domain. Okay, thank you, Zhang Zizai said.